1931, Henrietta Seuss died of brain cancer. She was 52 years old.
Ted had been very close to his mother growing up, and she'd been very instrumental in, I think, encouraging him, and what he did was good, and he should do that, and it was very hard.
Shortly after their mother's death, Ted's beloved sister Marnie, newly divorced, moved back to Springfield with her daughter Peggy to care for their father. Feeling her own life had ground to a halt, Marnie spiraled into alcoholism and rarely left the house. Her father disapproved in customary fashion. He stopped speaking to her. She believed her brother's absence meant that he felt the same way. In 1945, at the age of 43, Marnie Geisel died of a heart attack at her childhood home. Guilt-ridden, Ted was unable to talk about it for the rest of his life.
And I think there also was this thread of, could I have made a difference if I'd been around? And he wasn't, because he was moving on and in another part of America. But part of his protection, I think, was not to allow himself to spend his life in grief. And perhaps that's why he found such joy in doing the outrageous books he did.
Ted dedicated his follow-up to Mulberry Street to an imaginary child he named Chrysanthemum Pearl. Due to an illness early in their marriage, Helen was unable to have children. Niece Peggy became a surrogate daughter. Years later, Ted and Helen hosted her wedding in their home.
She didn't replace my mother. She didn't become my mother, but she gave me so much guidance without it being obvious. It was an example she set. You just wanted to be like someone who was very aware of other people's feelings.
Her husband, an introvert by nature, would always depend on people who weren't. Bennett Cerf, famous wit and legendary publisher at Random House, understood before anyone else how modern media could turn authors into celebrities.
Plus, my dad, I think, really brought something to Ted that Ted was good at, but had never figured out how to do. Ted knew how to sell flit, and he knew how to sell other things brilliantly, but he hadn't really sold himself the way my dad realized that he could sell Ted.
Bennett told Ted that he would publish anything he did. Geisel tested him with his first Dr. Seuss book for an adult market, one featuring the exploits of a band of nude women. The Seven Lady Godivas was an instant failure. Ted henceforth reserved his bawdy humor for his friends.
If you look at the end paper, there's a little bucket hanging from a branch, and there's a little cut in the branch, and out of the cut comes a drop of sap, and the sap is labeled Bennett Cerf. And this was Ted's comment on Bennett for publishing the book, so he obviously knew that it was a chancy undertaking. But of course Bennett wanted to do it because that was the way he got Ted to Random House, and what a prize that was. He was a hugely popular figure in the media before he really became popular as a children's book writer.
Ted capitalized on his fame with a modestly successful mail-order business. Fans received mounted creatures made with shells and horns his father had sent him from the Springfield Zoo, which he now ran after Prohibition had closed the Geisel Brewery.
Collecting bills isn't an unusual occupation, but collecting bills, beaks, and horns most certainly is. And with them, to create birds and beasts never to be seen outside of a padded cell or the dreams of a whimsical genius, well, that's still more unusual. And Theodore Seuss Geisel of New York is the whimsical genius in question. His most celebrated creation is the blue-green Abelard, which comes to life, but only when nobody is looking. The twin-screw Antwerp. The kangaroo bird, so called because it carries its young in a pouch before eating them on buttered toast. And if it wants an egg, it just lays it. And the Mulberry Street unicorn.
Ted's creatures would keep him company, hanging on his studio walls for the rest of his career. At the height of the Depression, Ted's success permitted an annual excursion with Helen that could last for months. In less than a decade, they would visit over 30 countries, returning home from each with at least one fantastic story.
You know, Ted would tell me these outrageous tales of, you know, shootouts in a dusty Mexican street and falling into the water trough as the bullet whizzed over his head, you know, kind of thing. And I think, was this a movie or is he making, you know?
You may like them, you will see. You may like them in a tree. I would not, could not in a tree, not in a car. Now let me be. Not in a box, not with a fox, not in a house, not with a mouse. I would not like them here or there. I would not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do with a goat. Not in the rain, not on a train. You do not like them, so you say. Try them, and you may. Try them, and you may, I say. Sam, if you will let me be, I will try them, and you will see. Oh, say! I like green eggs and ham. I do. I like them, Sam, I am.
Fella. Mister, I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. I speak for the trees have no tongues. And I'm asking you, sir, at the top of my lungs, that horrible thing that I see, what's that thing you made out of my truffula tree?
Look, Lorax, calm down. There's no cause for alarm. I chopped down just one tree. I'm doing no harm. This thing is most useful. This thing is a need, a fine something that all people need. It's a shirt. It's a sock. It's a glove. It's a hat. But it has other uses. Yes, far beyond that. You can use it for carpets, for pillows, for sheets, or curtains, or covers for bicycle seats.
Sir, you're crazy. You're crazy with greed. There's no one on earth who would buy that fool's need.
March back toward the wall, with our heads held up high.
It's time that we bop them.
Those monsters that dwell
on the other side of the wall.
They're fooky and freaky.
They're kooky and sneaky. They're rude and they're crude.
They're frightfully lewd.
As he was working on Horton, Ted continually found himself sketching murderous cartoons of Hitler and Mussolini instead of elephants and birds. In late 1940, he showed one of them to an old friend who quickly got him a job at the liberal newspaper, PM. At a time when most Americans prefer to stay out of the so-called European war, Ted's cartoons drove home the horrors of fascism and folly of American isolationism.